was getting dressed at my apartment in DC that morning. One of my dear friends, Gary Moore, called. We were college sweethearts, but stayed in touch about politics and all things relationship. "Are you watching this?" he said, skipping hello. "Turn on the Today Show." He works at the NBC affiliate in Peoria. There were Katie and Matt commenting on a plane that had struck one of the Twin Towers in New York at 8:45 on that clear September morning. There, a gaping, burning hole where a wall once was. Gary and I watched together while that tower fell, watched as another plane hit, watched the weeping, crying, dusty people. I called my mom and dad and said, "Mom and Dad, be careful in Chicago. It's a big city. They might be coming next for you." But the terror came to DC, where I was. The sound of helicopters whizzing overhead still traumatized me, like you, huh, Gloria? You know these stories, that there was a fourth plane, that the passengers on that plane had heard about the disaster, and some of them fought the hijackers and crashed the plane in a field in Pennsylvania. 45 people on board, and they were all killed. 19 angry men killed 2,977 people in the attacks on 9/11/2001. 31 of those who perished were Muslim. We lost family, we lost friends. We lost Michael James Stewart, who was a deacon here at Middle Church, a man born in Belfast, Ireland, a poetry major who worked selling flowers in Midtown until he got his MBA from Pepperdine, and then worked on the 92nd floor of the South Tower. Neither his 3 boys or his beloved heard from him that morning. He lived right here in our neighborhood. Gordon says he used to watch him put on his black clothes and carry his black briefcase and walk to work every day. He kept his earrings on just to be cool. He was a rugby player and a gentle dad. We lost 23 New York police officers, 37 Port Authority officers, and 343 New York Fire Department firefighters, one of them the father of my new colleague and friend, Carrie Kelly. His name was Joseph Levy, and he worked as a lieutenant at Ladder 15. Carrie says he taught her all about revolutionary love, so there's no place she'd rather be than to get to Middle Church this afternoon at 2 o'clock and celebrate love with us. The casualties from that tragic day, friend, keep adding up. We lost heroes who risked everything to save others, who put their health and their lives on the line. Many of them contracted respiratory diseases due to inhaling the debris. 7 people died already this year alone. One of them, a man named Thomas John Kelly, who died in January. He was off duty shopping for a suit for a party when he went to 9/11 to help those who were suffering. Some 70,000 people are still enrolled in the World Trade Center health program. We've lost so much. How many Iraqis, Linda? 1.6 million. 1.6 million Iraqis since the towers fell. We've lost so much. Not only health, not only lives, but a feeling of security, a feeling of safety. We've lost civility. We've lost kindness. We've lost the freedoms for which we fought. We've lost, some of us, our humanity and our respect for others. Bullying, beating, even killing Muslims and Sikhs, who are really called Sikhs, because we don't know, some of us, the difference. And those peace-loving people are lost in the aftermath. We've lost our bearing, we've lost our footing because we are afraid. We're lost. Our reading from Luke today tells the story of the Rabbi Jesus, And I don't know, in my life right now, I've been really connecting to the rabbi, Jesus, Yeshua. You know, before all of the Greek and Roman made stuff, we'll talk more about that another time. But Yeshua, the rabbi, before it turns out that he's resurrected, that guy, teaching his students about who God is. And he says, God is like a woman who has 10 coins. 10 coins, like maybe all of her livelihood, maybe months of savings, maybe years of savings. And she loses one of them inside her house. Ever have that crazy feeling where you lose something inside your house? That panicky, frantic, crazy feeling? And you tell yourself maybe somebody broke in and stole it, except you know that's not true. You're just cray-cray and can't find it. She was like that. God is like that. God is like a woman who loses the precious coin, who turns things upside down and acts like a lunatic until it's found again. God is like that. Jesus says, is like a shepherd with 100 sheep. At the end of the day, after taking them by the still waters, after taking them by the grassy, meaty place to eat, the shepherd notices that one of them is missing. Imagine, 100 sheep. Like, that's a lot. How do you know you're missing one? God is like a shepherd who knows the flock well enough to notice that one, that fat one. Or that spotted one, or that crooked one is missing because God knows them so well. Jesus says, like a shepherd, knows so well that one is gone, leaves the other ones in the wilderness, in the wilderness. Some gospel writer writes about this gospel song like the sheep are tucked away in the sheepfold. No, they're not. They're out in the desert with the wolves and the coyotes. And God is like a shepherd who leaves them with the wild things to go find the one. And then when finding the one, picks it up, puts it on his shoulders, carries it back safely, and throws a big old party to say, hey now. That one that was missing, oh my God, it's so precious to me. We got to have some barbecue ribs. Some sweet potato pie, corn on the cob. Oh, the joy. Titus wrote, God is our joy. Jesus says, we're God's joy. We're like so super special that God will do everything in God's power to find us when we're lost. So friends, we lose our way. It's part of being sheep. It's part of the human condition. We lose our bearing, we lose our footing, and we sometimes, let's be honest, lose our minds. We're crazy with fear. We're freaked out with anger. We're desperate with a sense of powerlessness, a sense of lost safety. How could they do that to us on our shores? And we're pissed. Pissed is not a curse word. We're terrified. And the good news today is that we serve a God who is vulnerable enough to miss us when we're gone. When I was a younger preacher, I would have said something like, we serve a God that's powerful enough to protect us and keep us safe and keep us from falling and put a hedge around us. Nothing bad's going to happen That's not true. But we do serve a God whose love is ridiculous and particular, recognizing you and you and you and, oh yeah, you for who you are and what hurts and what you need and how you need it. That's kind of better. Or at least it's more real. We serve a God who knows us so well that God can see our lostness, even when we're faking bravado and pretending like we're all right. God can see the shaky little kid in us, the trembling, beating heart, the frightenedness, the lostness. God can see our grief and our terror, and God grieves with us, is crying with us. Maybe even is a little lost with us. And that God, that vulnerable God, will leave some of us in the wilderness, in the wildness, to go get the one who's lost. Now, I got to say something about those 99 in the wilderness. What the heck, God? Really? The shepherd God is also wise. The shepherd God knows that sheep are gregarious, and all you need is one or two that know what's happening. All you need is one or two that know what the right path is. One of them named Sheba and one of them named Penelope, I don't know. And they'll make sure the other sheep get to the green pasture. They'll make sure the sheep get to the still water. They will, and the others will follow. They like hanging out together. Sheep do. The wise shepherd God knows that all that's needed is a leader. One sheep that knows the right way to go. Just one, maybe two. Penelope and Sheba. To keep them drinking on the clear water. To keep them on the right path. Middle friends, I think we are such a sheep. I think we are that kind of sheep, that leader kind of sheep, who knows the intent of God, who understands the love of God to keep folks safe, to keep them well watered, to keep them well fed, to keep them cared for, to shelter them in times of tragedy. You did that when the explosion happened across the street, and you did it on 9/11. The sound of people walking by, Gordon described, thundering sound of feet on the ground, making them way into this sheepfold with us, with our sheep, loving them, hugging them, holding them, bathing them, sitting together with them, playing with their children. You middle church family, you know how to take care of the one that strays and the 99 in the wilderness. You are always the radically loving, doors wide open place. You were here in the AIDS crisis in the 80s, offering funerals to people when folks' family wouldn't even look at them, wouldn't even grieve them. You were here creating a gospel choir for the ragamuffins in the East Village. I now am a ragamuffin in the East Village. Amen. Ragamuffins, raise your hands. You were here starting a meal for people living with HIV/AIDS, a meal that we still do. And you're still here making a space for thousands. I'm talking thousands of people who come through these doors in our 12-step meetings every week. You Middle Church are a radically loving place that partners with Jews and Muslims and Hare Krishners and Buddhists in our local interfaith gathering that offers a spiritual sounds concert every year. And now, our radically interreligious, interfaith work means a national connection with people across the country who don't name God the way we do at all. But we love each other, and we're working close together anyway. People like my friend Linda. I'm not your big sister, but I'm old enough to be your mama. We work together in the Black Lives Matter movement. We work together for police reform. People like Brian McLaren, who's a white evangelical turned progressive, and Sharon Brous, a Jewish rabbi, and Valerie Carr, a Sikh activist, all together working in a campaign called We Stand With Love, a campaign that's designed to just change minds and change hearts. We work together on that. We work with William Barber and Jim Forbes in a moral revival that's designed to change the conversation in this election and put the ethic of love on the table. And so when we delivered a platform to the Democratic Convention, we were there. And Rob is helping those things happen all around the nation. We've been lost, middle family, but we found our way into relationships. We have found our way into conversations. We've found our way into an interreligious movement for justice, to do voters' rights, to register people, a campaign called Together We Vote. This multiracial, multi-faith movement for justice, we're in it, and we're in it to win it. We're in the center of it. And it is not like always a walk in the park. When you're working with people who are different than you, there is conflict sometimes. We struggle with each other about language. We struggle with each other about Palestine and Israel, don't we, Linda? We struggle with each other about how to name these things, how to do these things. But we hang in together, we stick together, just like we do in this body, this diverse body, this radically, outrageously diverse community. This is the kind of space we've created because this is the kind of space to which we have been called. We have lost so much, but we found something too. We found colleagues. We have found community. We have found a shared vision for healing the world that we know has to look like this. We know we cannot get the world healed in segregated silos filled with hatred and venom. We know, you know, because you walk past the Korean church and you walk past the Chinese church and you walk past the so-called white church and you walk on by the black church and you come to this church to be with people who are like you, who understand the value of a multiracial, multi-ethnic, many-gendered, multiple ways to love kind of community. Amen? Amen. It's juicy. It's a French word. Jouissance. It's joyful. Yes. In the space of hard work and the ongoing pile up of casualties, 7 people died this year from diseases related to the 9/11 event. In the face of ongoing loss and piled up death, life looks like this. Being the embodied people of God who will go after the lost one, but also being the embodied people of God who will care for the 99 in the wildness. It's a wild world out there. The Paralympic Games happened a couple days ago, opened in Rio. One of the women who was carrying the torch is a woman named Marcia Marsar. She was a 4-time Olympic winner in like 1989, I think. And she was walking in the rain with her torch, and she fell down. Did any of you see that video? She fell down, and she dropped the torch, and somehow the fire did not extinguish. It stayed lit. She picked up the torch. With the help of a couple of men on either side of her, she righted herself, she got her grip on the torch, and she kept on walking. Kept on carrying her light. Linda read that there is a light that Allah has for God's people, a light that shines in the darkness. Middle people, in the face of so much loss, we have found a way to be. A multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural, gay, straight, bi, trans community of love and faith. Our God sees our lostness, knows our lostness, knows each of us well enough to know when we're having a crazy, grieving, horrifying time, and comes to find us, sometimes by sending someone to love us. And God entrusts us to the care of each other. We've got to have each other's back. We've got to love each other like nobody's business. We've got to create safe spaces for conversations that are sometimes difficult and painful, but we got to have them anyway. And we know that we won't heal our land unless we find a way to bind our hearts and our minds around what we have in common, which is we are deeply known and we are deeply loved. There's going to be more junk because people are afraid. There's going to be more violence because people don't know how to hold their fear. And we are called by a God that's like a woman who loses her mind when she loses us. By a God that's like a shepherd who'll do anything to find us and bring us home. Amen.